Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast. Today we're looking into something truly extraordinary. It starts with a discovery. A tiny little book, apparently found quite by accident, just gathering dust for years, so small you actually need a magnifying lens to read it.
Right.
And inside, not just a story, but an entire civilization, living, thriving, inside what we just call an abandoned house.
It's an incredible premise.
Isn't it? And the origin story is just as strange. This tiny book, penned by someone called Erasmo J. Hemingway.
Okay.
But here's the twist, not human. He described as a little being, specifically a Boggart.
A Boggart author. That's definitely different.
And language is described as, well, it's a little Old English, a little modern English, and a little chestnut cake.
Chestnut cake.
Yeah, baffling, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a bit tasty. Anyway, this tiny book, originally full of pictures and color, it had to be translated, which resulted in a much larger book, all black and white and with no pictures. Though, thankfully, they hand-copied the illustrations, so we get some sense of the original look.
So what this is actually revealing, it's not just some forgotten diary. It's the basis for a tabletop role-playing game. It's called Household.
Right. Household.
And it's all about these tiny littlings, and that unit of measure, the tiny meter, apparently still eludes us, which is amusing.
Yeah.
But they live out these little great adventures in a world that is literally an abandoned home. And the game has a mission, a really profound one, to tell the saga of littlings who are largely or completely neglected by history. It's basically inviting you, the listener, to become a household historian.
A household historian. I like that. You're piecing together these forgotten lives.
Exactly, from this completely unique, microscopic perspective.
Okay, so that's our journey today. We're going to unpack this world of household, look at the cultures, the history.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty dramatic. And the rules, the mechanics that govern it all. I think we're in for some surprises, some definite aha moments.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating setup. The world of household. Tiny beings. Grand adventure.
So to really get this, we have to start at scale. It just completely messes with our reality. How tiny are these littlings? And how does that change everything for them?
Well, the description is they're a couple tiny meters tall. And as we said, what a tiny meter actually is, well, we don't quite know. But the crucial thing is their entire world, their whole universe, is this place we just call a big abandoned house.
Right. Like an old family home left empty.
Exactly. But for them, it's everything. Imagine furniture becoming towering mountains, dust drifts turning into shifting deserts. That's the world they live in.
Wow.
And this scale, it defines absolutely everything. Their societies, how they travel, even how they understand history and time. The house is meticulously mapped out. You've got the ground floor dining hall, living room, then the upper floor master bedroom, bathroom, smaller bedroom, and down below, the basement. It's their entire cosmos.
It's mind-bending thinking of a familiar space like that. But okay, how does a game, a tabletop role-playing game, well, let's really step into that. It's not like reading a history book.
Well, that's exactly why it works so well. Because it is a game. You're not just a passive observer. You're empowered to be an active participant in this forgotten history.
Okay.
Remember, the goal of Household isn't just to tell a story, but the story and even the saga of littlings who are largely or completely neglected by history. So you, the player, the historian, you get to step into their shoes. The source says, much like an actor would, reliving their adventures.
Ah, like method acting for tiny historians.
Sort of, yeah. You're not just learning history, you're actively uncovering it, maybe even making it. You're bringing these characters to life, characters whose stories would otherwise be lost. It turns history into an adventure itself. What is a tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG, in this context?
That makes sense. Stepping into their shoes. For anyone listening who maybe isn't super familiar with TTRPGs, can you give a quick rundown? How does this format actually work for exploring Household's history?
Sure. So basically in a TTRPG like Household, you have a narrator and you have players. Each player controls a character, one of these little killings we're talking about. The narrator, they kind of run the show. They describe the world, the situations, they play all the other characters. The players meet allies, enemies, bystanders, everyone.
Got it. So one storyteller and everyone else is a protagonist.
Pretty much. And it's collaborative. The narrator sets a scene like, okay, you enter the dusty expanse under the sofa, and then the players say what their characters do. I'll try to sneak past the dust bunny, or I draw my pin sword.
So you take turns building the story together.
Exactly. It's interactive. It evolves based on everyone's choices.
But what happens when, someone tries something risky, like that sneak past the dust bunny? What if it's actually a giant dust spider?
Ah, well, that's where the dice come in. When there's uncertainty, when the outcome isn't guaranteed, you roll dice.
Okay.
The dice determine the result. It adds that element of chance, of challenge. You might succeed brilliantly, you might fail spectacularly, you might just scrape by.
Right. So it's not just wish fulfillment. There are stakes.
Definitely. And that combination, the collaborative storytelling, the player agency, the element of chance, it makes it a perfect way to uncover these hidden histories. You're not just reading about the Battle of the Teacup, you might be fighting in it. You connect with it personally.
Yeah, I can see how that would make it stick. Much more than just names and dates.
Exactly. You're living the history, the four folk, diversity and destiny within the house. Now, before we get into the specifics of who lives in this house, it's really important to kind of reset expectations.
Okay.
There's an old proverb in the house. Ab uno dices omnis. It means no one, know them all.
Right, like see one fey creature, you've seen them all.
Exactly. But for household, that couldn't be more wrong. The folk here are incredibly diverse. We need to drop any preconceptions we might have from, folklore or other fantasy. Each group has its own unique history, its own look, its own traditions, even its own kind of magical contract.
Contracts. We'll definitely need to unpack that later.
Oh, we will. But first, let's meet the residents.
Yeah.
The four main folk. Faeries, the star childs of the realm.
All right, let's start with maybe the most classic sounding. The Faeries, sometimes called the fairy folk. Their story starts pretty dramatically, right?
And
losing their home.
Very dramatic. They're an ancient folk. Their ancestral home was this place called the Dungeonios tree. But it got struck by lightning, fell against the great window.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Wow.
So their leader, Tsar Oberon Trismegistus, led them on what the book calls a wearying exodus. They ended up migrating into the house proper through the great window and founded their nation, the realm, in the dining hall.
The dining hall. Fancy. And what are they like? Appearance, abilities.
They're known for being, well, classically beautiful, graceful, elegant proportions, and of course wings.
Not the wings.
Described as charming wings like those of a conceited dragonfly, shiny, see-through, multicolored, often matching their hair, and they grant proper flight.
Like real flight, not just gliding.
Real flight. Horizontal flight is fast, like running speed. Vertical is slower, like walking. And this completely shaped their society, especially their architecture. Before this current era of peace, lots of Fae homes had entrances on the third or fourth floor. No stairs needed.
Just fly right in.
Yeah.
Convenient. Any downsides to these amazing wings?
A couple, yeah. They make a loud buzzing sound, apparently, which is terrible for stealth, and it gives them a penalty, a -1, when trying to dodge projectiles. Harder to zip out of the way, maybe.
Okay, so flight is amazing, but comes with trade-offs.
Yeah.
You mentioned contracts earlier. What's the deal with the fairies?
Their hereditary contract binds them to the astral forces. They're called the Star Childs. The obvious benefit, the concession, is their wings and flight.
And the cost, the counterpart.
They must honor agreements they sign firsthand with their name. If they break such a promise, they face. Well, the book calls them terrible, terrible things.
Ominous. We'll definitely circle back to those.
Yeah, they're weird. So their nation, the realm, it's a hereditary monarchy. The current ruler is Tsarina Arcadia Oberonovna, who's also the ruling empress of the whole household.
Empress, okay, so they're kind of in charge.
Historically, yes. Their capital is Astravia, this amazing crystal city built on the highlight chandelier in the dining hall and kitchen area.
On the chandelier, that's incredible imagery.
Isn't it? Their emblem is an 8-pointed star. Motto: Custodir et caper, to protect and conquer. Language is Fae. And culturally, they see themselves as the cradle of classic culture, literature, and art.
Sounds like a pretty refined society. Protected by the royal gendarmerie and the great imperial army. Is it all just peaceful luxury, though?
Not quite. On the surface, yes, the upper class lives very well. Passive income, fancy palaces. But these palaces are apparently a maze of intrigues and social norms.
Court politics.
Exactly. Your dress, your accessories, even your hairdo are instrumental weapons for social survival. But then in the shadow of the table, there's significant poverty.
A big gap between rich and poor.
A huge gap. Lots of citizens are dissatisfied, dreaming of getting into court life, focusing hard on career and social climbing.
How do they get along with the other folk?
Well, sprites come to study at realm universities. Wealthy littlings from other folks might retire there. But the Sluagh from the basement, they're often mistrusted, face a lot of hardship. Even though the Tsarina issued an edict calling them brothers, it doesn't seem to have fully worked.
Any other interesting tidbits about the realm?
There's a fascinating medical thing. A certain Auguste Fabergé invented crystal cocoons on Mount Guignol. If a fairy damages their wings, they can go into one of these cocoons to regenerate them.
Wow, like a butterfly.
Sort of. But it's very expensive, and your wings might come out a different color. Adds a bit of risk. Boggarts dear to the hearth.
Okay, from the high-flying fairies in the dining hall, let's go to the Boggarts. They're called dear to the hearth. Their origin seems very different, more grounded. Service, right?
Absolutely. They were originally known as brownies, and their whole identity was built around faithfully serving the master of the house.
The master. The original human owner, presumably.
Presumably, yes. They kept the house clear of insects, protected the family. In return, they got shelter and the warmth of the hearth. Simple, loyal service.
But the master disappeared.
Right. And after that, a Boggart named Benjamin Hearthworth, or Big Ben, founded the Hearth Nation. Their goal was basically to keep the house safe, maintain things until the master returns.
Holding down the fort. What do Boggarts look like?
They're generally described as tall, sturdy, burly. Kind features, but angular wide jaws, tall foreheads, flat noses, strong looking.
And their core belief?
Yeah.
Still tied to the master.
Very much so. Unconditional love for the master. They celebrate it with the Imbolc festival, giving tributes to the household fires, singing songs for his return, and they kind of subconsciously resist big changes like urbanization. They want the house kept as it was.
Loyal to the end. What about their contract?
Dear to the hearth.
Tied to the household fire itself. The concession is unparalleled strength. And, this is cool. They can grow up to twice their size for short periods.
Whoa! They get huge. Temporarily, yeah. It's called going juggernaut.
Juggernaut. Is there a story behind that name? Sounds specific.
There is, actually. A little anecdote called Judd in the Jug. Apparently, a curious sprite scientist wanted to study this Boggart ability up close.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. He lured a Boggart into the kitchen and trapped him under a big glass jug. The Boggart, presumably, went juggernaut inside. And the name stuck.
Huh. Poor Boggart. But amazing ability. What's the counterpart, the cost for that strength?
Their word of honor. If a Boggart gives an explicit promise, they absolutely cannot back out. Break your word and you face those terrible, terrible things. Same system as the Faeries, different trigger.
Word is bond. Got it. And their nation, the hearth.
It's technically a republic, but with strong military roots. Power has traditionally passed down the Hearthworth line. The current leader is Governor and Grand General William Bravespine Hearthworth Jr.
Bravespine. Good name. Where do they live?
Their territory is the living room and the stairside area. The official capital is Walford, also called the Borough. But the real spiritual heart is Cinderhall, which is inside the main fireplace.
Inside the fireplace. How does that work? Must be another contract involved.
Has to be. We'll get to those welcoming contracts later.
Okay. How's their society? Different from the realm's intrigue.
Very different. They're not super rich or super poor generally. Reputation is everything. It's surprisingly easy to make a bad name for yourself in the hearth.
Gossip travels fast.
Seems like it. It's also described as quite patriarchal. The mothers, wives, grandmothers manage the households. Men are seen as rough, maybe, but gallant. There are some gender role expectations. Boys doing baking or fashion might get mocked, but girls joining the military is more accepted.
Interesting dynamics. What about activities?
Hunting is a big rite of passage for the young ones. Symbolizes adventure, danger. But not many make a full career of it. They also have a growing university, the University of Chesterfield by the Fire, attracting young Boggart minds.
And their relations with others. You mentioned Sluagh earlier.
Yeah, there's historical distrust there because the Sluagh invaded in the past. But interestingly, the source notes a surprising number of Sluagh have actually joined the Hearth Army and seem to genuinely care for the local Boggart culture. So it's complex, not just simple animosity. Sprites out of Spark, Drain, and Draft, the Free Dominions.
Okay, next up. Sprites. They sound ancient, maybe even older than the Boggarts, and diverse. Not just one type of sprite.
That's right. They claim they've been in the house before memory, even before the master vanished. There's a whole debate about who was first, Sprites or Boggarts. But yeah, the key thing is they are considered one folk, but divided into 3 distinct groups, each tied to an element of the house: sylphs, undines, and salamanders.
Air, water, fire, basically.
Essentially, yes. Let's start with sylphs, who are out of the draft. Think air. They're described as thin, hollow-boned, proverbially light. Tall, very slim. So slim, apparently, that gossips say they'd make good thieves.
No, skinny fingers.
Maybe. They have pale skin, and their blood is blue-green, which shows through. They're seen as sensitive souls, good socially, but also often lazy and forgetful. The classic airhead stereotype, maybe.
Okay. And their special ability, their concession?
It's called bloating. They can suck in a huge amount of air and inflate like a balloon.
Seriously. Like a pufferfish.
Kind of. Useful for stealth, subtlety, or maybe just balancing precariously. It lasts about 5 turns, but they can't talk while they're bloated.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hard to talk when you're full of air. What about undines? Out of the drain, so water.
Correct. Water element. They're the opposite of sylphs, physically. Short, stout, with shiny bulging muscles from natural water retention. They tend to have a bowed posture.
Okay, stocky. Their ability.
Water retention. It gives them a natural resistance to falling damage. They can absorb extra stress, physical or mental strain, without filling up their capacity as quickly. But the downside is they sweat profusely when they do this, and they lose decorum points. Not very elegant.
Huh. Sweaty but tough. Got it. And salamanders. Out of the spark fire.
Fire, yes. Their concession is enlightenment. It manifests in 2 ways. First, bioluminescence. Their hands, feet, and nose can glow like cold torches. Very handy in the dark parts of the house.
Built-in flashlights. Cool. What's the second part?
They sometimes get a striking epiphany, basically an instinctive flash of insight about the future. Once per game session, this lets them repeat an action roll and add a bonus point. A little glimpse of what's coming.
Handy. Any famous salamanders?
Lazarus Melchior, the smiling salamander, known as the most lethal gunslinger in the house. So they're not just scholars and mystics.
Good to know. So each sprite type has a contract tied to air, water, or fire. Where do they live?
They formed a nation called the Free Dominions, or Freedoms, up on the upper floor, master bedroom, bathroom, smaller bedroom area.
The upper floor. Makes sense for the air types, maybe.
Yeah, and their whole nation is founded on the ideal of equality among all folks. They have 2 main centers, Beddingham, which is a huge market town, and Tuberdam, the political hub.
Who runs the show?
It's governed by the Symposium, a small group of scholars. The head figure is Rector Professor Werner Reinhardt. It sounds much more academic or philosophical than the Realm's monarchy or the Hearth's republic.
How do they interact with others? Sounds like they're pretty open.
They seem to be. Faeries see them either as worthy rivals or as heirs to culture, especially science and art. Sluagh are apparently very welcome. They find sprite culture extremely fascinating and often make good money in the Beddingham markets. And Boggarts find plenty of work there too, as rangers, guards, laborers. It sounds like the most integrated society of the 3 we've discussed so far. Slow revenants from far beyond, the Horde.
Okay, last but not least, the Sluagh. Revenants from far beyond. They sound different, and they arrived later.
Much later, yeah. Many years after the Master's disappearance, they arrived on Samhain Halloween, basically, in an event called the Wild Hunt. They came from some place called Far Beyond through the pipes down in the basement.
Through the plumbing.
Creep definitely sets a tone. They quickly took over the basement and established themselves there. Culturally, they have a huge respect for tradition. Their homes are often decorated with idols from their old cults and Far Beyond. Things like spiders, scorpions, even a mythical snake.
Okay, so a bit more. Primal, maybe. What's their contract? Revenant from far beyond.
Tied to the forces of Far Beyond, wherever or whatever that is. The counterpart is interesting. They always pay up after they lose a bet.
Always pay their gambling debts. That's it.
Seems simple, but if they don't, terrible, terrible things. Just like the others. It's a strict code.
Huh. Okay. Their nation is the Horde down in the basement.
Right. They call it the Lower Dominions, or House Below. Covers the quivering stairs and the whole basement. It's a khanat ruled by Khan Villanero Arsenio Voltoyo Rodomante.
That's a name.
Isn't it? The capital is Al-Sahir, the Rusted City, which is described as the most populated city of the household. Their emblem is a serrated circular blade. Language is Sluagh.
Most populated city.
And what's their economy like? Sounds like they'd be involved in mining or something, being in the basement.
They are. The Horde is the main source for most handcrafted products and natural or mined materials in the whole house. They also have a growing artistic and cultural scene. But they are extremely populous.
Yeah.
About half the entire household population might be slow. This leads to massive overpopulation and widespread poverty in the basement.
Ah, so a lot of people trying to get by.
Exactly. It forces many slow to migrate upwards looking for work or to take really dangerous but high-paying jobs within the Horde, like joining the army or fighting in the Ratador arena.
Oh, Ratador, like fighting rats.
Sounds like it. Socially, if you're born into a rich or noble Sluagh family, you have a luxurious childhood but very rigid traditions. Poor kids have it tough, learn a trade quickly, or strike out on their own to seek a fortune.
Sounds like a society with high stakes. What about crime? High population poverty. Yeah, the crime rate is high. So high, they have something called the Law of Dawn. Basically, most unsolved crimes committed during the night are just pardoned every morning. A clean slate, kind of.
Wow, that's pragmatic, I guess.
Or desperate.
Yeah.
They also have the Janissaries, these elite soldiers patrolling the capital trying to keep order, but it's a tough job.
And their military structure. Besides the Janissaries.
They have the militia, which is like local police in mustard-colored uniforms. The Horde Army is the main military force. And then the Janissaries, in rusty armor and monstrous masks, the elite guard. They're led by 27 commanders called Skull Riders, including the Khan himself, Rhodomonte, and figures like Caliphaleo, the handsome and Varana of Wallachia.
Skull Riders. Evocative. How do others view them or interact with them, given their reputation, maybe?
It's mixed. Foreigners are often fascinated, finding a warm, welcoming atmosphere despite any initial prejudice. Sprites apparently adapt really easily and make fortunes in the Al-Sahir bazaars. Faeries might move down there for work or maybe to escape the pressures of the realm's court life. And Boggarts. They're seen as a precious resource for the Horde Army. They get paid well for their strength and discipline. Some Boggarts even end up tending spiders for the Sluagh.
Tending spiders. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level. So despite the differences, there's a lot of interaction and movement between these folks.
Definitely. It's not four completely isolated societies. They're all living in the same house, after all. The fabric of existence, contracts, and social structures.
Let's circle back to those contracts you mentioned. They sound absolutely fundamental to how this world works, woven into the very beings of these littlings.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard about the hereditary ones for each folk, but it feels like there's more to it.
Oh, much more. The core idea is always this exchange, concession and counterpart. Some kind of force, astral forces, household fire, air, water, spark. The mysterious far beyond grants a benefit. That's the concession.
Like flight for fairies or strength for Boggarts.
Exactly. And in return, the littling, or the entire folk, has to adhere to some kind of rule, restraint, or action. That's the counterpart.
Like honoring signed deals or paying gambling debts or keeping your word.
Right. It's this cosmic bargain that defines so much of their existence and their abilities. It connects their identity directly to their actions in a really tangible way.
And if they break the deal, terrible, terrible things. Let's talk about those. What actually happens? Is it like a
What's stranger than a simple curse?
Mm.
First, you immediately lose the concession. The fairy can't fly. The Boggart loses their super strength. That's bad enough.
Yeah, that's a huge penalty right there.
But then you start attracting these bizarre and unbelievable events. The terrible things, or TTTs. It's less like a targeted curse and more like the universe starts playing weird pranks on you. Reality itself gets subtly warped around the contract breaker.
Weird pranks. Like what?
The examples range from minor, annoying stuff to seriously dangerous things. Your shoes might suddenly tie themselves together at the worst moment. A spider might attack you during a fancy gala. Your weapon could just crumble to dust in your hand mid-swing. You could be suddenly tongue-tied, or your legs might just freeze up.
Wow. So it can be comical or deadly.
Exactly. The sources even categorize them by severity levels. Level 2 might be inconveniences, like getting sick, your weapon jamming, maybe a swarm of wasps shows up, or you have an uncontrollable sneezing fit right when you need to be quiet.
Okay, annoying. What about level 3?
That's where it gets more serious. An important item might slip from your grasp. You could be mistaken for a wanted criminal by the gendarmes or a street gang. You might accidentally swallow poison or spoiled food, getting the poison condition, or take a wrong turn and get completely separated from your friends, maybe walking right into a spider's trap and becoming scared. And breaking a level 3 contract can even escalate the TTTs to level V.
Yikes. So breaking a promise in household is no small thing. It has real, tangible, and bizarre consequences.
It fundamentally warps reality around you. It shows how deeply connected these littlings are to the rules of their world.
Now, this whole system, it wasn't always understood, was it? You mentioned someone named Argo, the bureaucrat. A Sprite.
Argo, yes. A figure of almost mythical status. Said to be the only littling whose brilliance rivaled wise Paracelsus. Argo became obsessed with contracts. He didn't just want to understand them. He wanted to control their power.
Control them.
He undertook this massive research project, supposedly visiting every household force, listening to them, trying to learn their secrets. He compiled everything, maybe in a legendary diary that treasure hunters still look for today.
A diary of cosmic bargains.
Pretty much. But his ambition might have gone too far. He started pushing boundaries, challenging the limits, and then, around year 50, after the master disappeared, he vanished. Poof, gone without a trace. Presumed dead.
And his work.
Quickly discredited, called humbug. Forgotten or suppressed. It wasn't until later that wise Paracelsus, who some apparently called the Pulvid, maybe affectionately revisited some of these ideas and developed a better understanding, especially of the really big one, the domain contract. Argo laid some groundwork, but Paracelsus really figured it out.
Okay, so besides the ones you're born with, the hereditary contracts, what other kinds are there? You mentioned personal contracts.
All right. Hereditary contracts define the folk. Personal contracts are different. They're struck individually if a littling has something a force wants, if they possess contractual power.
What does that mean, contractual power?
It's vague, but seems to imply having something unique or desirable, maybe a skill, a secret, a destiny, even just being in the right desperate place at the right desperate time. The offer might come mysteriously. A stranger appearing, a voice on the wind, an echo in the pipes, a dream. Often when the littling is in dire straits.
And what kind of deals can they make?
All sorts. There's the wall strider contract, for example. You make a deal with the walls of the house itself.
Get the walls.
Yeah. And the concession is spider step. You can walk or run on vertical surfaces like they're flat ground.
Incredible.
But there's a warning. Mind your hat. The contract only applies to you, not your clothes or gear. So you might stick to the wall, but your backpack could fall off.
Practical magic advice. Any other weird ones?
How about the expensive taste contract? The counterpart is you have to swallow 1 coin every single night.
Eat money. Why?
Who knows why the Force wants it?
Yeah.
But if you fail, you get TTTs. And the only way to stop them is to eat 33 coins all at once.
That sounds unpleasant.
Definitely a strange one. Then there are welcoming contracts.
Right, you mentioned those for places like the fireplace. They grant access.
Exactly. Access to places that would normally be deadly or impossible to enter. Like Cinder Hall, inside the fireplace without the kindled welcoming contract, you just burst into flames. Or Cimarachnid, that Sluagh city built upside down on the ceiling. You need the upside down welcome for that.
How do you get one? Just ask nicely.
Not quite. You need a formal welcome from the owner or keeper of the place, and they are extremely selective. You usually have to follow a long list of rules and prove yourself worthy.
Okay, and if you mess up, break the rules.
Here's the key difference. You lose the benefits. You get kicked out of Cinder Hall, or the world stops being upside down in Cimarachnid, but you don't suffer the full TTTs or increase your TTT level. Losing access is the penalty.
Ah, okay. Less cosmic weirdness, more like getting your membership revoked.
A good way to put it, the domain contract.
So all these contracts, hereditary, personal, welcoming, seem to lead up to the biggest one you mentioned, the domain contract, the one Paracelsus figured out. What's the core idea here?
It's described as the most important welcoming contract of all. It's the ancient agreement that ties all littlings to the house itself. It's the fundamental contract of existence in this place.
And Paracelsus's theory was about size.
Size and perception, yeah. His hypothesis, building on some of Argo's forgotten ideas, was this. When the master was around, his presence, his power, kept the house's dimensions stable and constant for everyone.
Okay, makes sense.
But now, with the master gone, the house itself seems to grant space based on the contractual power of the littlings or locations within it, and also based on its own inscrutable whims.
Wait, so the size of things isn't fixed? It depends on who's looking or who's there.
That's the mind-bending part. Yes, an entire city can physically exist inside a single drawer. But to its inhabitants, it feels much larger than the container.
How is that possible?
Because the inhabitants, collectively, have enough contractual power to warrant that perceived space from the house. A noble's mansion might look huge to a poor visitor, but normal size to the noble themselves, because the noble has more importance, and thus more contractual power. It means status and power literally make you bigger in the world's eyes, or at least command more space.
Wow. Reality is subjective based on your contract score.
In a way, yes. It even explains those gargantuan beasts like Reginella, the mother of spiders, being dozens of tiny meters tall. It's not just that she's big. Her enormous contractual power makes everything else seem tiny in comparison, effectively making her colossal within the house's reality.
So size is relative, dictated by this underlying contract with the house itself. Did this discovery have any practical use?
Absolutely. Once Paracelsus figured this out, he used the principle to invent the first household compass.
A compass, what does it point to?
It detects the energy of the domain contract. the background hum of the house's agreement with its inhabitants. And because of that, it always points to the center of the house. It's absolutely crucial for navigating this place, where subjective space can make normal directions tricky.
A compass that points to the metaphysical center based on a cosmic contract. Okay, this world just keeps getting weirder and more fascinating.
It really does. Life in the house. Professions, wealth, and decorum.
All right, let's shift from the cosmic rules to the everyday lives. How do littlings actually make their way in this world? Professions seem key.
They are. When you create a character in the game, you choose a profession, and that really defines their skills and their role in society. They're grouped into broad categories.
Like what?
You got soldiers, cadets, guardians, gendarmes, officers, even scissor-for-hire mercenaries, all focused on combat, protection, law.
Makes sense.
Then scholars, this is broad, artists, diplomats, researchers, detectives, scientists, even includes chefs like Professor Noam Flanagan, who cooks for the Tsarina. Knowledge, discovery, social skills.
A scholarly chef.
Nice.
Hunters are next. Guides, champions, nomads, scouts, bounty hunters, masters of the wild spaces, tracking, survival.
Okay. What about less? Lawful paths.
Ah, yes. Criminals, courtesans, cheaters, thieves, professionals, like assassins maybe, snitches, thugs, deception, stealth, underworld ties.
Got it. Any others?
Duelists. They're keepers of an ancient art of war focused on skill, honor, maybe romance. Think swashbucklers, heroes, rebels. They train at specific fencing academies, places like Faeries in the Realm, Walford in the Hearth.
So specialized fighters.
And finally, animal handlers. Veterinarians, aristocrats who keep pets, ranchers. They're devoted to raising and training the house's animals and insects, riding mice, keeping pet bumblebees, that sort of thing.
Riding mice. Okay, that's cool. And each profession gives specific skills. Yeah. Special abilities and traits. Things like fast reload for a hunter, soothe pain for a scholar, tinker for someone crafty, friends in high places or low places, outsmart, spin attack, sharpshooter, shadow, sword fighter, and of course Boggarts can get juggernaut. Handlers might get an animal companion, a beetle, bumblebee, gecko, or mouse partner.
Lots of variety. How does money work? With all these different folks and nations, is there a standard economy? Wealth levels.
There are general wealth levels that determine your baseline lifestyle. Poor, middle class, well-off, rich. This affects what you can afford without actually spending currency.
So middle class means you eat okay and have a place to sleep.
Basically, yeah. Roof over your head, simple meals. Rich means you can stay at the best hotels, afford almost anything. Coins are used for the extra things beyond your basic means.
Is there an official currency?
Yes. The official units are crystals, plates, and grains. It works on tens. 10 grains to a plate, 10 plates to a crystal.
Simple enough. How do you earn them or spend them?
You can sell items you find, but apparently you only get about a quarter of their value in these times of crisis. You can take odd jobs, you can steal, of course. And interestingly, you can choose to lower your wealth level temporarily to get an immediate influx of coins if you're desperate.
Trade status for cash. Risky. What about equipment? Besides weapons, anything unique to this tiny scale?
Oh yeah. Things perfectly suited for littlings. A bumblebee glove for safely handling stinging insects.
Yeah.
A carriage pulled by trained shire mice, that household compass we talked about. Multi-lens glasses for seeing tiny details, a parachute backpack for jumping off furniture, even a battle-spinning top.
A weaponized toy.
Seems like it. And spring-loaded boots for jumping high. Their weapons are also fascinating, described as exact scaled replicas of some of the master's items.
Repurposed human stuff.
Looks like it. Melee weapons include things like a key, used as a club, the very common half-scissor blade, the cogpesh favored by the horde, the Faeries cocktail spear, the big two-handed great scissor, or even a sharpened razor.
Ouch. Ranged.
Pistols and crossbows seem to be the main ones, and for the criminally inclined, there is a character trait called illegal that lets you buy weapons at half price.
Yeah, and hope nobody notices.
Right.
One more aspect of daily life, decorum. You mentioned it earlier. It's more than just being tidy.
Much more. It's about elegance and personal hygiene, yes, but it directly impacts how you interact with different parts of society.
How so?
High decorum, being elegant or even pompous, is helpful when dealing with nobles and polite society. It's a key requisite for getting into fancy places. But low decorum, being uncouth or shabby, can actually be helpful in seedy circles, dealing with criminals. They might trust you more if you look rough.
So you manage your appearance strategically. Can you change it easily?
You can willingly lower it temporarily to get a bonus on a roll if it fits like trying to blend in with thugs. To raise it, you need services, barbers, hairdressers, and it costs coins. Like 2 coins become decent, 3 to become pompous.
But there's a risk.
Yeah, if you try to improve your decorum and fail the role, you end up with a ridiculous condition. You just look silly trying too hard.
Huh. Fashion faux pas have mechanical consequences. Love it.
It adds a great layer of social maneuvering, a history of conflict and peace, the saga of the house.
Okay, let's dive into the history itself. The saga of the house. It all hinges on that one moment, doesn't it? The master's disappearance.
Absolutely. That's year 0, essentially. The moment Big Ben Harthworth, the Boggart leader, uttered the words, "He's gone," that marks the start of their recorded history. His next thought was, "We wait." But the waiting turned into years, then decades, and the absence changed everything.
And the first major event after that was the Fae Exodus, leading to the Great Betrayal.
A dark chapter indeed. Around 87 years after the master vanished, 87 MG, the Faeries lost their tree home. Tsar Oberon led them into the house. But then came the betrayal. Wise Paracelsus, the Sprite leader, made a secret deal with Oberon.
What was the deal?
Paracelsus promised Sprite help against the Boggarts, who were already living in the house, in exchange for the Faeries letting the Sprites have the upper floor. The result: most adult Boggarts, including Big Ben himself, were killed.
Oh, wow. That's brutal.
It was. The survivors, mostly women, elders, children, were spared but forced into exile in the outhold, the dangerous areas outside the main house structure. They were led by Big Ben's son, William Walnut Harthworth.
So deep-seated bad blood between fairies, sprites, and boggarts right from the start.
Oh?
Then the Sluagh arrived.
50 years after the master disappeared, 50 MG on Samhain, the Wild Hunt. The Sluagh pour out of the pipes in the basement. They quickly take over down there. And then a warlord, Kublai, unites them into the Horde of the Great Blade and starts attacking the fairy frontiers in the dining hall.
So conflict on multiple fronts.
Big time. This kicks off the First Household War. Emperor Oberon, the fairy czar, actually asks Paracelsus for help against the Sluagh, but Paracelsus ignores him, maybe feeling guilty about the Boggart betrayal. Or just opportunistic.
Interesting. So Oberon was stuck.
He was desperate. He sends messengers to the exiled Boggarts in Brambletown. William Walnut's son, Benjamin William Harthworth, nicknamed Lackland because he'd never lived inside the house, agrees to help.
The exiled Boggarts agree to help the fairies who betrayed their grandparents. Why?
They sign the Restoration Pact. The Boggarts will fight the Sluagh alongside the fairies if the fairies promise to help restore the house to how it was when the master returns. It's a gamble on the master's eventual return.
A fragile alliance born of desperation, and this starts the war.
Yes, a massive war that lasted nearly 20 years. Fairies and Boggarts fighting the Sluagh horde. Meanwhile, the Sprites just lock down the upper floor, barricade the frontier, wanting no part of it.
What was the human cost?
Or
little cost.
Immense, huge sacrifices. Benjamin William Lackland, the Boggart leader who signed the pact, died in the war. He never saw the Hearth Nation established. His son, William Harthworth Jr., took over. He's the one who earned the name Bravespine.
How did he earn that?
Through incredible valor, apparently. And he wore this distinctive cloak made of porcupine quills he'd gathered. His leadership was critical in holding the Boggart forces together during those brutal 2 decades.
This war culminates in the Battle of Saviors. Sounds epic.
The descriptions are intense. Talk of the ship that we now call the Last, crashing through waves, maybe spilled water, heading for the Pallid Beast, and then a single littling, black and gloomy and alone, standing victorious at the end.
Who is that?
It's deliberately mysterious, but likely Capitano Rodomonte, the Sluagh leader who emerged. The battle saw many acts of heroism, or attempted heroism. Kublai Khan, the Sluagh warlord, he was hiding, saved himself, but did not win.
Cowardly.
Fenella Ramsey, a sprite known as Tuberdem Dollar, was protecting, saved families, but did not win. Bravespine himself was enduring, saved soldiers, but did not win. He held a collapsing structure, an entire ship, allowing his Boggart troops to escape, becoming a littling bridge.
Incredible sacrifice. But Rodomonte won.
Rodomonte was the one who acted decisively. "Forward," he said, and forward he went. He took out Kublai Khan with just one murder, seizing control of the horde, ending the war, and ushering in the era known as the Fragile Peace.
One murder to end a 20-year war.
Yeah.
So what did this fragile peace look like? How did the power shift?
It led to a major political reset. Tsarina Arcadia, Oberon's successor, made a gesture of atonement. She gifted the living room area to Brave Spine and the Boggarts. They finally had their homeland back, establishing the hearth.
A huge concession.
Huge. Then Arcadia did something even more radical. She renounced her hereditary imperial crown. Instead, she proposed the High Council with representation for all four folk.
A council. Who was on it?
Brave Spine representing the hearth, wise Paracelsus for the free dominions, Sprites. Capitano Rodomonte for the horde, Sluagh. And Arcadia herself representing the realm, Faeries.
So what does this all mean? A real shift towards equality?
Well, yes and no. The war definitely curbed the Faeries' absolute power. Arcadia still leads from her crystal throne in Astrovia, but now it's within this council framework. There's peace, representation, but it's explicitly called a troubled peace. The tensions are still there. And this period, this fragile peace, is the setting for the game's adventures.
And the game structures this recent history using chapters.
Exactly. The main campaign, the saga, takes place over the 5 years of the fragile peace, from year 6HC to XHC, that's 97 to 101 MG after the Master was gone. Each chapter covers roughly a year and focuses on major historical events that the player characters will experience or react to.
Like what? Give us a taste of these chapters.
Okay, Chapter 2 covers late year 7 to early 8th. It features the tragedy on the banister. A major caravan route using the main staircase banister derails. It's a huge blow to transport and trade. A revolutionary group called the Freers, led by Commander Kirkland, claims responsibility. This sparks rebellions across the house.
Chaos ensues.
Yeah.
What's next? Chapter 3.
That runs through most of year 8th. It's called Breakout at Deep Down. A mass jailbreak from the Sluagh's maximum security prison in the basement. Escaped prisoners flee into the in-betweens, the dangerous wall voids and hidden passages, also called Pinjara, hunted by terrifying Black Legion hornets and a skull rider named Immeasurable Bastion. A particular gang leader, Duncan Rocks, gets a big bounty put on his head.
Prison breaks, rebellions. This piece sounds very fragile indeed. Chapter 3. Is that year 9's?
Year 9's, yes. This chapter includes the Centennial Celebration. It's 100 years since the Master vanished, and the Hearth celebrates, or commemorates. But it also sees the heist of the century, led by a sylph sprite named Ferguson Foal. They pull off something supposedly beyond impossible. Plus, a bounty is placed on Xerxes, the Sunset Devil, a scary huntsman spider living near the Hearth's sacred cinder hall, and, technologically, double-barreled weapons hit the market. A game changer.
Heists, bounties, new guns.
Yeah.
Busy year. And the final chapter, Chapter 5.
This covers late year IX into year X. Starts with the Great Yule Ball in the fairy realm. But it's interrupted by an assassination attempt on a Marquis Tristan de Larme. The attacker shouts, "He is not my brother," in Fae. Then hyper-nationalist soldiers called the Tristards storm the ball, but the Imperial army stops them. A state of emergency is declared.
Wow.
It gets worse. This period is called Ashes to Ashes. The Tristard leaders hide out in the Hearth's territory. Tsarina Arcadia asks Bravespine to let her elite troops, the Goldenbacks, search the living room. This leads to tragedy in the fairy district of Walford and reveals that an ancient imperial fairy, presumed dead, is somehow involved. Lots of political intrigue and conflict boiling over.
So the whole 5 years are packed with major events that shake the foundations of this piece.
Exactly. That's the backdrop for your adventures. The game in motion, playing the history.
Okay, so we have this incredibly rich world, this dramatic history. How do you, the player, actually jump in? Tell us about creating a character. How does that process connect you to this history?
It's really about breathing life into one of those littlings neglected by history, making their story matter. You start with the basics. Name, folk fairy, Boggart, Sprite, Sluagh, which gives you your hereditary contract. You choose your nation of origin. Maybe you're a Boggart from the Hearth, or maybe one who grew up among Sprites in the Free Dominions.
Okay.
Then you pick your profession and a specific vocation within it, like a soldier who's a guardian, or a scholar who's a detective. This gives you starting skill points. You customize further by spending a few extra points. You choose special traits and moves related to your background and profession. You get starting aces, we'll explain those. You determine your wealth level and pick starting equipment. You set your decorum.
So lots of customization.
And crucially, you write a short prologue, your character's backstory, before the game starts. And from that prologue, you choose one key memory. You also decide which languages your character knows, maybe Fae, Sluagh, the Common Tongue.
It sounds like by the end of that, you really know this littling.
Exactly. You've defined who they are, where they come from, what they're good at, what they carry, even a key moment from their past. You're ready to step into their shoes and make their history matter within the bigger saga.
All right, character created. How do they do things? You mentioned skills and field. How does that work?
There are 20 different skills grouped into 4 main fields. Society covers interacting with others, etiquette, diplomacy, charm, intimidation. Academia is about knowledge science, history, investigation, medicine, crafting. War is for direct conflict fighting, strength, endurance, commanding others. And street covers stealth, crime, navigating wilderness, perception, ranged weapons.
So 4 broad areas of competence.
Right. Your profession gives you points in certain skills within these fields, and you add those extra points wherever you like to customize. So, a diplomat might be high in society skills like etiquette, while a scout is high in street skills like caution, or maybe war skills like strength.
And you use these skills when you try to do things.
Exactly. Want to persuade a guard. That's probably a societal role using charm, trying to fix a broken gadget. Academia using craft. Climbing a treacherous bookshelf. War using strength, or maybe society using grace for acrobatics. Sneaking past a sleeping cat. Street using illusion.
Makes sense. What about those aces and jokers you mentioned? Sounds like playing cards.
They use playing card suits, yeah. Aces are a resource you gain based on your main fields. You can spend an ace for various benefits, get a +1 bonus to a dice roll, repeat a special move you've already used, remove a negative condition if its suit matched the ace, or even, after failing a roll, you can spend an ace to change the approach and try again differently.
Flexible.
But limited.
You can only hold 1 ace of each suit, hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades at a time. Jokers are even rarer, described as an even more precious resource.
What do jokers do? Truly amazing things. You can spend a joker to get an extreme success on a roll without even rolling the dice, just automatically succeed brilliantly. You can save a friend who's about to be taken out of a scene, bowing out. You can remove any negative condition instantly. Or you can use it to get an ace of any suit you need.
Wow. How do you get jokers?
The narrator awards them for really exceptional play moments of genius, incredible bravery, perfect role-playing. They represent those moments of extraordinary luck or heroism.
Okay, so you have your skills, maybe an ace up your sleeve.
Yeah.
How does the actual dice rolling work when you attempt something? When you said it's not just pass-fail?
Right. It's designed to keep the story moving. You gather a dice pool, usually 6-sided dice. The number of dice is your relevant field score plus your skill score, adjusted by things like helpful equipment, negative conditions, maybe spending an ace. Minimum 2 dice, maximum 9.
Okay, you roll your handful of dice. What makes a success?
Success is getting 2 or more dice showing the same number. The number itself doesn't matter, just matching pairs or more. 2 matching dice is a basic success. 3 of a kind might be a critical success, giving a better outcome. Even more matches lead to extreme success.
What if you only get 1 pair, but you needed more, or you just miss?
If you get at least 1 basic success, 1 pair, you have the option to re-roll any dice that didn't match. It's a risk you might lose the pair you already have if the re-roll is bad, but it gives you a chance to improve your result.
And failure. If you roll and get no matches at all, story over.
No, never. That's key. The narrator uses failure to make things interesting, not to stop the game. Failure should give it new chances to proceed in a direction that is unexpected and engaging.
So failure means complications.
Exactly. Maybe you get a negative consequence, you succeed partially, but something bad happens later. Or success at a cost, you get what you wanted, but you suffer a condition, lose coins, break your equipment, or lower your decorum. Maybe failure means danger, a new threat appears, or the current one gets worse. Or maybe you just suffer stress, representing the effort and frustration, taking a toll without changing the outcome much, but bringing you closer to being overwhelmed.
That sounds much more dynamic than just, you fail, next.
It really is. And there are also reaction rolls where the narrator tells you to roll in response to something happening, dodging a trap, resisting intimidation. Same system, keeps players involved even when they're not actively doing something.
Okay, let's talk conflict. The house sounds dangerous. Giant insects, other littlings. How does combat work? What are you fighting?
There's a whole bestiary of threats. Opponents have threat levels rated from 1 to 5 spiders, which is a great thematic touch. Narrators can quickly create opponents too.
Give us some examples of the beasts.
Oh, plenty. Roaches, wasps. Their war buzz can mess with your aces. Earwigs, common spiders slinging cobweb volleys. Centipedes, Hornets with that war buzz, plus a blinding dust cloud, rats, lizards, beetles.
Standard creepy crawlies, but huge to a littling.
Exactly. Then bigger threats. Large spiders, spurred centipedes, golden silk orb weavers, net-casting spiders that can do a grand slam attack, giant centipedes, and the terrifying huntsman spiders that can literally stomp you.
Huntsman spiders.
Yeah,
Right, so you mentioned spiders have a special significance.
They really do. A mix of fear and respect. Littling folklore often paints them as evil son of a spider is an insult. But the Sluagh arachnites raise them for milk, poison, meat, even as mounts, though it often ends badly for the handler.
Like Mortimer Arluino eaten by his spider.
Exactly. Or Egatone, whose mummy still sits on a spider mount. And then there's the apex predator, Reginella, mother of all spiders, living in the golden hell. Her immense contractual power makes her truly colossal.
A terrifying ecosystem. What about fighting other littlings? Guards, duelists?
Yep, plenty of littling opponents too. Gendarmes, duelist with special move like parry, disarm, or fluster to mess with your head. Soldiers who can storm your position. Elite honor guards using defensive formations. Master duelists who can pile on. The Faeries goldenbacks with aerial maneuvers like tailspin. And the Horde's janissaries with their red fury and rust abilities.
Sounds like littling combat can be quite tactical. Any special rules? Ranged weapons?
Ranged combat uses distance categories. Adjacent, short distance, within range, long distance, out of range. Long distance shots are harder, take a penalty. Firearms, like pistols, are usually single shot and take a whole turn to reload, unless you get a critical success on a dexterity roll. Ammo isn't usually tracked unless it's a really tense scene.
What about brawls versus duels?
Brawls are just straightforward fights. Messy, quick, no bowing out until someone's down. Duels are more formal, intense, one-on-one confrontations against a specific valiant challenger. They can be sword fights, but also games of seduction, intellectual debates, even street fights with specific stakes. More dramatic.
All this fighting, sneaking, stress. It must take a toll. How does the game track wear and tear? Stress and conditions.
Stress is the main measure of physical and emotional fatigue. Scrapes, bruises, exhaustion, fear, tension, it all adds up. You have a stress track. Fill it up and you hit a crucial box, making you overstressed. Fill it further and you become broken.
Broken. What does that mean?
You can't take any more negative conditions, you get a penalty on all your rolls, and you have a high baseline stress level. You're basically running on fumes, barely holding it together.
What happens if everyone gets broken?
If all the player characters in a scene bow out, whether from stress, injury, or just being unable to continue the session ends in disastrous defeat, the narrator decides what happens next. Captured, left for dead, cut off from allies. It's serious.
Okay. And conditions. There's specific penalties.
Right. Specific negative states linked to fields or actions. We mentioned ridiculous from failed decorum. There's embarrassed, -1 to society roles. Confused, -1 to academia. Scared, -1 to street. Sick, constant baseline stress. Guilty, -1 when lying or acting improperly.
How do you get rid of them?
It takes time and effort. You usually need to be somewhere safe. You might need to make a specific skill roll, spend coins, get help from friends, and you can typically only remove 1 or 2 per day. They linger.
So actions have lasting consequences. And about positive influences. Help from friends, good gear.
That's covered by help and hindrance, helpful things, good tools, allies assisting you, high decorum in the right situation can give bonuses, like +1 die, automatic success, or fulfilling a needed requirement. If multiple characters help, you might succeed without even rolling.
And hindrances.
The opposite. Carrying too much stuff, having a bad reputation, low decorum when trying to be fancy, annoying secondary characters. These can impose penalties. -1 die, automatic failure, or adding extra requirements to succeed. The narrator judges how these factors play into each situation, keeping things fluid.
It sounds like a really detailed system that models not just the physical world, but the social and emotional realities of being a tiny littling in a big, dangerous house.
That's the goal, I think, to make you feel the scale, the stakes, and the unique pressures of their lives. Epilogue and continuing the journey. You know, reading Erasmo's closing words, he felt that even with all this detail, he'd barely scratched the surface. He says, "My dearest reader, I still feel like I have barely given you a glimpse of the breadth and depth of household history." He talks about all the other places, dates, famous littlings he wished he could have included, just to keep their memory alive.
It suggests there's so much more to this world than even this extensive book covers.
Exactly. He clearly felt there were many more stories waiting to be told.
And his final thought is quite profound, isn't it? About history being all that we have left of the past, all that will bring us back to the future, that without understanding where we come from, we can't figure out where we're going.
It really elevates the whole premise. This isn't just about a game, it's using the game to explore the very nature of history, memory, and how we define ourselves through our past, even a hidden tiny past like the households.
So as we wrap up, maybe a final thought for you, our listener. Consider that domain contract again, how it literally shapes reality based on perception and contractual power. Cities in drawers, nobles seeming larger than commoners. How might those unseen forces, those shifting realities within household, mirror things in our own world? What kind of unseen contracts or social agreements shape our reality, our perceptions of space, status, importance? What tiny meters of existence do we live in without realizing it?
That's a deep thought. What frameworks define our world that we just take for granted?
Exactly. And what history are we living through right now that might seem completely baffling or only be understood properly by people looking back from a vastly different scale or time?
Makes you wonder what future historians or maybe just beings operating on a different scale would make of us.
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration of the incredible world of household. We hope it's given you a new perspective, maybe made you look at the corners of your own home with a little more curiosity.
Who knows what tiny sagas might be unfolding there?
From all of us, this has been the Uncanny Valley Podcast.